Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be reading age gap romances for an entire week. Nothing but age gap romances for an entire week. I'm super excited to share my picks with you, picks that I got from a variety of places like I do for all of these trope videos. But before doing that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the sponsor of today's video, Book of the Month. Book of the Month's mission is to help readers discover new books they love and to promote the work of emerging authors. Book of the Month makes it easy to decide what to read next, which I absolutely love. Each month, the editorial team reads through hundreds of new titles and picks 5 to 7 of the best new books for you to choose from. All of the books are incredible, so you can't go wrong. I love Book of the Month because they help readers discover books that they ordinarily wouldn't have discovered on their own, focusing on new and upcoming authors and helping readers venture beyond their typical genres. I am historically a romance reader, obviously, but I love Book of the Month because they have such good selections in other genres, and I know I can count on them to pick out books that I'm going to love. I almost always pick out a thriller selection whenever I am selecting my Book of the Month because I know that they've got my back. And the experience is such a delight. There's just something really special about receiving your blue box, and the app is really great too because it helps me pick my book, track my reading progress, and participate in reading challenges with rewards. And something cool the Book of the Month has been doing for the past couple of months and will continue to do is offering an audiobook option, which I personally really love. Some months I'm just really not looking to add to my physical book collection, so getting an option for an audiobook is super, super awesome. Not all of the books are offered in both formats, but again, I love having that option whenever it is available because I love a good audiobook. What can I say? But if you do decide to go the hardcover route, rest assured that you are getting the greatest prices on new release hardcover fiction. $16.99 for a brand new hardcover with free shipping is a deal that you don't want to miss. And if you are new to Book of the Month, they're running a really incredible offer right now where you can get your first book for only $5 using code SPOOKY. The books that I selected for this month are When I'm Dead by Hannah Morrissey and Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. When I'm Dead is a thriller. As I said, I always select a thriller from Book of the Month because they have the best selections. This one is about a woman who is helping to investigate the disappearance or the death, I guess, of her daughter's best friend until her daughter goes missing herself, which sounds very juicy, and I'm very excited to read this. Starling House is a book that, I won't lie, I read the description of and I was totally hooked, but I still don't totally understand, and I think that's actually great going into a book kind of not knowing a ton about it. But this book is about our main character Opal, who is trying to make a better life for her and her brother, and to do that she ends up entering this like mysterious house called Starling House. I don't know if she has to work with the heir of this mansion or if she is just there to like kind of solve mysteries. I don't know. I don't want to know a ton about this book. All I know is that I'm very excited about it. I think I've read one other book by this author and I'm very excited to give this one a try. So very excited for both of these releases. Again, if you want to get your first book for only $5, use code SPOOKY. Thanks again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now let's talk about my selections for this video. Super excited because I love age gap romances. Age gaps are such an interesting trope in romance. While age gaps I think are becoming more taboo in real life, I think they're becoming less taboo in romance. It's something I feel like I see a lot of and I've been seeing a lot of lately. But I selected 5 books from 5 different locations. First up, of course, I always do a reread for these trope videos. I'm gonna reread Birthday Girl by Penn Douglas. I feel like this book is such a great example of an age gap that has that taboo element for sure, but definitely does more with it than just being titillating. So excited to reread this one and see if my feelings are the same as when I initially read this book. Next up is a pick from Amazon. I always like to pick a book from Amazon by just searching up a trope like age gap romance and seeing what comes up. And one of the books that came up and sounded really interesting to me is Stealing Home by Kimberly, I don't know if it's Carrillo or Carrillo, but this book is a reverse age gap, I guess you could say. The heroine is older than the hero, and I think it's kind of scandalous because she is a baseball coach's wife and one of the players is into her. So excited to see kind of where that one goes. Next up, I like to look at my YouTube comment section for recommendations. Y'all always have great recommendations, and this time y'all definitely pulled through with The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. This is a book that has been on my radar for a very long time, but I just haven't picked up. I don't think I've read anything by this author previously, and this is another reverse age gap where the heroine is older than the hero, and of course she ends up dating the pool boy. I don't know much about this one other than that, but I don't need to know much more going into this book. Then I have a booktube recommendation. Again, I always love to get on YouTube and search up book recommendations, and I think this is how a lot of us like find really good recommendations for books. On Jess's video, her age gap romance video, I got the idea to read Power by Cassandra Robbins. This one is pitched as a very like sexy age gap romance, and I'm not saying that like the other selections aren't sexy, but Jess definitely sold me on this one by saying it was like very hot and steamy, so excited to pick this one up. And lastly, I always like to look at Instagram by using a hashtag like hashtag age gap romance and seeing what comes up. And this is the post that came up, advertising or like selling to me The Way I Hate You by Megan Quinn. And this is one that's like at the top of Amazon's charts anyway. So I was kind of curious to see if this was a romance that I was going to enjoy. I have mixed luck with Megan Quinn books. Recently finished one that I was excited about but kind of let me down, so I'm hoping that's not the case for this one. That being said, those are the 5 romances I'm going to be reading in this here vlog. Let's get into the vlog portion of the video and find out if age gap romance is a trope that is like a hit it or a quit it. Let's just ignore this. We can't, however, ignore Power by Cassandra Robbins. Okay, so what a book to start with. I was having this like, not debate with myself, but I was considering age gap romances as I started to read this one and just thinking about how age gap romances can differ. And I feel like these videos in general have really got me to ponder and consider what tropes can do for a reader and what sorts of stigmas they can either break or reinforce. And I think age gap romances are pretty interesting because I think societally we have become more against them, especially recently when it comes to relationships like Aaron Taylor Johnson and his older wife, and, you know, obviously vice versa when you have an older man and a younger woman. I feel like, you know, me personally, I'm not super tight with like age gap relationships in real life, but I'm cool with them in fiction typically, because I think age gap romances give an author an opportunity to take something that is taboo on its head and make it something that isn't so taboo, and to really spend time fleshing out the other aspects of the relationship and the other aspects of the romance to get you to sort of forget almost that there is an age gap, and you're rooting for these two to overcome maybe the stigma that other characters are putting on them, right? So I like the idea of age gap romances, and that's why I decided to do this video, because I know that there's some that I love. It's a trope that I have typically enjoyed, although I think the older I get, the more that I kind of like question them even in fiction. But Power was an interesting one to start with because this book I think really leans into the taboo and doesn't seem to care much about turning anything on its head. And you know what? A book doesn't have to do that. Really, it's not a book's responsibility to like take these tropes and make them something they're not, or to like, what's the word I'm looking for? To normalize things. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to talk about this book in like a polite way because it's a book that I started and I was like, this is kind of fun. And then it just went to a place that I am not vibing with. So I think I'm probably going to DNF this one. Let me just talk to you about it, okay? Book's about our main character, Jet, and we get his POV at the very beginning of the book. He is this like high-powered dude. I think he's like a criminal defense attorney or something like that. He is engaged to a woman named Rachel. And Rachel is not someone who he seems to enjoy particularly. He, I guess, admires her cutthroatness because he is particularly cutthroat in his own career, but he doesn't seem particularly attracted to her. She's 48, and while he says that she's kept it tight and everything, she has duck lips, which is remarked upon a couple of times, and she's kind of a bimbo, and I don't know, it's just the way he describes her is not complimentary. Definitely not the way that I would describe someone that I was marrying. And you know, I know that people in books or in real life like marry people for the wrong reasons, but just weird the way that he was talking about her, and I was like, okay, whatever, like it's kind of campy, and like I don't even know if campy is the right word. It's over the top. Certainly over the top, and so like maybe that's where we're going with this. I'm like, okay, I can overlook it, maybe it'll be fun. So I continue to read, and we find out that Rachel has a daughter named Raven, and Raven is going to be staying with her mother over the summer. I don't think she typically stays with her mom. She doesn't get along with her mom very well, but she's staying with her mom over the summer before college or something like that. I don't know. Rachel, I think, is going to be out of town for a little bit, so Raven is going to be staying with Jet in Jet's like big ass mansion. And even though Raven has a boyfriend, she knows who Jet is before meeting him, and she knows that he's been in the tabloids and he's really handsome, and that she's going to have a hard time staying away from him. And I was like, okay, willing to suspend again my disbelief just a little bit and be like, okay, this is going to be corny, but like maybe fun. And then things started getting a little bit too weird for me. He calls her in his internal dialogue, like the first time he sees her, his Lolita, which like the first time, ew. Every other time he says it after that, disgusted, okay? So he keeps saying that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep reading. I'm intrigued. I want to see where this shit leads, okay? Like I need to see where it leads. And we have our heroine receiving oral sex from her boyfriend who is described as a pale, skinny vegan who looks ill. So he's like slobbering on her downstairs beds. Jet comes home and he sees this happening and he's like, get away from my woman, and immediately starts performing sexual acts on her. I don't know if the other guy, like her boyfriend, has left, but he's like, I'm gonna bring you to orgasm, don't you worry. And it's funny. Like it's funny. It's truly funny. I'm not above it. Let me just say, I'm not above it. I think that books like this can be fun. This book in some ways reminds me of Steal You Away by, I always get the author's name confused or wrong. It's either like Victoria Alexander or Victoria Andrews, something like that. I don't know. She wrote a book where the heroine gets with her boyfriend's younger brother, and it's fun. That's an age gap romance, and that one's fun. It's silly, it's over the top, but it's just fun. I think there were too many red flags for me, and it's not the age gap, again, that's the red flag, because that other book has an age gap. It's that he calls her Lolita, and it's the pace at which things are happening. You know, I wasn't expecting this to be this like incredibly intense and romantic book, especially because of the way that Jess like describes it and reviewed it on Goodreads. I will admit, it's been a while since I selected the books for this video. Whenever I looked just a second ago at Jess's review, she said this was hot and steamy, and I can't disagree with that. It definitely is a book that I think is for the steam factor. So if you're looking for an age gap romance that is like more on the steamy side and you're not super concerned with writing quality, I think this could be a good palate cleanser. I often gravitate towards books like this, frankly, whenever I am looking for something that is a little bit on the corny side, because it's not corny. When I'm looking for something a little bit more like lighthearted and like fast-paced, you know, sometimes I'm looking for that. I'm not necessarily looking for like, you know, a Kennedy Ryan book. But yeah, the Lolita comments and the pacing of the sex was just gonna be too much for me. It's just not for me. It feels a little bit weird to be DNFing the first book for this video, but again, it really did get me to consider things about this trope and just about these kinds of books in general, so I'm not mad at it. As you can tell, hopefully, by like my attitude and my inflection, this is funny to me, and like I had a fun time with the 15% that I read of it. I just don't think it's gonna be like a book that I ultimately love, and I don't feel like continuing on. So I think I'm gonna pick something else up next. Well, I definitely am going to pick up something else next. What it will be, do not know. Let's do The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. That one I believe is a reverse age gap where the heroine is older than the hero, and I'll be curious to see if I like that one anymore. I feel like that one I've heard so many things about. I don't think I've ever read a Nikki Sloan book before, so let's get into it. All right, so I picked up The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. I'm like 50% in, and I thought we could talk about it. This one is, I would say, like fairly similar to the last book that I attempted to read, Power, but this one I think is executing on some of those themes in a little bit more of a well thought out, polished way. So this book's about our two main characters, Erica and Troy. Erica is in her early 40s. She's a really beautiful woman, but she feels kind of neglected by her husband, who has not really been like wanting to engage with her sexually. So she decides she's going to get all dressed up and like get really cute and go surprise her husband at work because he's working late, and she finds her husband having sex with his boss. So she is devastated. Obviously, she hasn't had sex in months / years. Like, she just hasn't felt attracted to her husband, and after about 10 months of like just like healing from this divorce, she ends up jumping into bed. Wouldn't even say jumping into bed. She ends up in a situation where she starts having sex with the pool boy, and the pool boy, I want to say, is like 24 or 25. Like, it is exactly what I am telling you. It's nothing really nuanced or subtle, but it's definitely not bad. And also the added layer to the story of the like career, I guess, aspirations of Troy and or the career aspirations of Erica. She is a music executive, and she's been charged with her boss with like finding an opening act for this like Taylor Swift kind of stand-in, I guess, this like country turned pop singer who is going to be back in Nashville for like the last leg of her tour, is looking for an opening artist, and she is going to try to find someone like new and up and coming. She hears Troy sing at a bar, and she's like, I think this guy could be really great for this opportunity. There's like some other people who also could potentially like fill this spot, but she really wants to help Troy, and maybe he can do something with this like newfound passion of his. He didn't necessarily intend to be a musician. He got his degree, I think, in like athletic training, and he has been doing athletic training and also working for his stepfather's business, but he is interested in potentially doing something different. Our heroine is also someone who really is into music. Obviously, she works in the music industry, but she has had a renewed interest in writing songs, and I'm wondering if that will become a major part of the story. It kind of already is. Our heroine is helping Troy, like she is letting him record in the studio so that he can put together a demo for this opportunity. Yeah, like it's a pretty solid read. I would say the sex scenes in this book are pretty hot. I think they are maybe a little long for my liking. I just know when I pick up a book like this, and I don't want to say that I go into every book with preconceived notions, but I feel like within about 10% of a book, I can tell if it's something that I'm going to enjoy or not. And this book, I didn't go in and think, oh, I hate this, but I knew that it wasn't going to be something like really emotionally deep and rich, mostly because of the way that the beginning of the story started. Like, yes, you sympathize with the heroine, like her husband cheated on her, that's so shitty, but you can tell that the emphasis is not really going to be placed on the emotional healing and her trying to find an emotional connection with someone else. That being said, like, I can tell that this author is trying to kind of infuse some of that, you know, like, oh, they do like each other a lot sort of thing, and I just don't know if I like necessarily buy that. It seems like they're both just sexually attracted to each other, and the hero says like, oh, you know, I've been attracted to her for 5 years. The reason I started singing in the first place was to like impress her at like my mom's party, because, oh, that's another thing, Erica, one of her best friends, is Troy's mom. I mean, they've only been friends since Troy was in high school, so it's not like, you know, she's been around this kid forever or anything, which I think is a good touch. Like, thank you for not having there be like a weird aspect to this book, you know? But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in this one. It's fine. I'll probably finish it tonight. I definitely will finish it tonight. I'm staying up late tonight and I'm going to start in on something else. I don't know what I'm going to start in on. Let's see what else we've got on the list. Like I said, I picked out the books for this video kind of a while ago, so I don't actually even remember which ones I'm reading. So I think I'm going to save Birthday Girl for last. I think I'm going to do The Way I Hate You. Oh yeah, that's the Megan Quinn book. That one is like a typical age gap. There's another book that I have, I think it's called like Stealing Home, and that one I want to read as well, but that one's also an older woman, younger man, and I want some like, let's alternate each book, right? So yeah, I'll update you when I'm finished. I think this one's probably gonna be a 3-star for me, but definitely not an unpleasant read, and I think if you're looking for something, again, just like kind of low-key and you want like a bump up in writing quality, this could definitely be something like fun and like a palate cleanser for you. All right, so I finished The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan, and I've started in on our next read, The Way I Hate Him, and so I thought we could talk. I thought we could chat. We do some final ratings for this book. The first one that we're giving ratings to, I was actually just about to reach for my old phone. I need the new phone so that I can do my calculations, okay? So mixed feelings on this one. I think I ended up liking it more than I had anticipated because I do feel like the emotional component really did round this book out pretty nicely. I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking or like so heartfelt, emotional, amazing, 10 out of 10 or anything. I was pretty impressed with a lot of the things that our author was able to pull off. Even with the sort of like far-fetched sort of, I don't know, music plotline mixed in with her like banging her pool boy, they seem to have a cute enough relationship. I feel like this is a book that you will fly through. Again, I think if you're looking for something easy breezy but you want good writing, I think this is a solid one. I think in terms of like my actual rating, it's still probably a 3-star. Like this is not 4-star material, primarily because I don't really see myself remembering this book very long after finishing it. Anyway, like 3 stars total. In terms of sexiness, I think this book's gonna get a 4. I think this book was very sexy. There was like one scene I didn't love, but for the most part, this book was pretty sexy. It definitely had a lot of sex scenes, and I thought the ones that were done, or the ones that were in there, of which there were many, they were well written. And then whether or not this book would work if it were age gap or not, it needed to be an age gap romance, because otherwise this is just a romance. I mean, I guess you could say it would be like maybe boss employee. There would be a power dynamic in there in a sense because she is his manager, but I think overall it's really hinged on it being an age gap romance for it to actually work, and otherwise it's just like, it's boring. You know, you need that trope. So we're gonna give it a 3 overall, a 4 for sexiness, and I think I'm also gonna give it a 4 for the overall age gappiness. So it's a 3.66, which I feel like is a pretty good start to this here video. But let's talk a little bit about this other book before I lose my steam. I'm so tired, y'all. Sorry, this is like not the most entertaining clip thus far, but like 10-ish% into The Way I Hate Him. And I just wanted to like update you because I'm going to try to read more of this tonight into tomorrow, obviously. I probably will only give one more update though, because I don't see this being anything like mind-blowing. Maybe it will be. I don't know. This book's about our two main characters, Hattie and Hayes, I believe. Hattie is back in her small town because she is a few credits short of finishing her master's degree in business administration. She really doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. Her sister just recently passed away. She's not vibing. She's not having a good time. And to top it all off, her good-for-nothing thief boyfriend ends up dumping her. And I guess in a fit of revenge, our heroine is going to take all of the things that her ex-boyfriend stole from his boss, bring them back to his boss in an attempt to get him fired. And this kind of backfires on our heroine, and the hero is like, hey, you helped him steal from me or whatever, you need to work for me now. Since I'm like firing this guy, you need to work for me. And she's like, I don't want to work for you, live with me, like our families are fucking enemies. He will not take no for an answer, and so she is now his employee. It's interesting to me because I'm pretty sure the first Elizabeth O'Rourke book in the Devil series is also named Hayes, and I'm also pretty sure that there's kind of a similar premise in that heroine working for the hero. Coincidences, for sure, but it has a similar vibe too. There is sort of like a snappy dynamic between the two of them. There's definitely sort of like a witty, I wouldn't even say witty, a banter situation going on. If there's one thing to be said about Megan Quinn's writing, and I can say this because I just read another book by her, A Not So Meet Cute, she does a really good job initially at drawing you in and getting you to be intrigued by these characters and their chemistry. She is really good with the banter. I always have a fun time when I am reading one of her books. So I'm having a good time with it. It's excessively long at like 500 pages, but like it's fun enough to where I'm almost willing to overlook it. What I'm interested to see is like how the other things in the story play out. I can tell that Megan Quinn's trying to make a new series here. This is set in Almond Bay, where I guess 4 lesbians run the town, which I mean, we love lesbians in this house, so that's cool. But there's been a lot of like backstory and build-up, and I can tell that this one is not going to just be smut, smut, smut all the time. I think they're both attracted to each other. I could be wrong here, but just with the way the book is set up, I don't think this is going to be an easy breezy smutty book, which is good because that's not really what I'm in the market for. presently. I know I can count on Birthday Girl at the end of this video to like really be that emotional, heartfelt, but sexy thing that I need, but I would love to find at least 1 or 2 other age gap romances in here that really prove how amazing this trope can be and why I have liked this trope in the past. So anyway, I'll update you tomorrow when I'm not like bleary-eyed. And hopefully my hair will be looking a little bit better. Hello, girly pop besties. All right. I be reading books, okay? I finished The Way I Hate Him by Megan Quinn. It wasn't terrible. It was, however, way too fucking long. Why did the audiobook for this need to be like 15 hours long? Just explain it to me. Like, someone make it make sense. I think the general premise was fun, and I can appreciate what Megan Quinn tried to do with the emotional aspect. I think I mentioned that in the last clip, that like this definitely had that like emotional twist, or not like twist, but like component, right? It wasn't just like a, ooh, taboo, let's bang sort of situation. It was, oh, he's older than me, but there's more at stake here, right? Heroine is really mourning the loss of her sister. That's a huge component of this book. Her 2 older siblings are not really being very honest with her about her deceased sister's wishes. She's feeling very isolated and alone, and she really finds comfort in Hayes, and I thought that was kind of sweet. The issue, I think, was with Hayes. I think he was just an emotionally immature character, and he does grow throughout the course of the story, but the reason they break up in the 3rd act is really stupid, and there were just a couple of like miscommunication moments that I felt were unnecessary, coupled with the fact that I didn't find this book sexy. It made it to where I was frustrated. Like, I really wanted to love this book, because I would say at like 25-30% I was like, you know what, this is actually like solid, I'm very into that, but I feel like that happens often with Megan Quinn books. I'll get like sucked in and excited, and then things just kind of fizzle. I think Val on Goodreads, she's like one of my favorite go-to Goodreads reviewers, did a good job summing it up, that like once you get to the like sexual component of the book, all of the chemistry just kind of fizzles between the 2 characters and you just don't care anymore. So this one's so tough for me. I definitely didn't enjoy this one as much as Pool Boy, so I think, am I gonna give this book 2 stars? I think I'm gonna give this book 3 stars, okay? The sexiness, however, is gonna get 2 stars, because I did not find this book sexy, and I need you to know that. I did not find it sexy. So I'm gonna give it a 2 for age gap. Can I be real with you? I don't think this book needed to be an age gap romance. There was a lot already kind of working here. One of the biggest factors for this relationship to be taboo was the fact that the heroine's older brother used to be friends with the hero, but they're enemies now, and so she's working for the enemy, and she has to like keep their relationship, their professional working relationship, a secret, and then when it turns romantic, that makes things even more complicated. So I don't know, I just don't feel like the age gap was really a huge component here, especially, I mean, if we're going off fucking maturity levels, he did not have the maturity level that catered his age, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was less mature than the heroine. So the overall rating for this book's a 2.33. I definitely did not hate the story, I just was hoping for a little bit more considering how the book started out. So anyway, let's move on to a book that is just totally different than anything I feel like I've read for this video thus far. It is Stealing Home by Kimberly, is it Carrillo? I'm not really sure. This book's about our 2 main characters, Scott and Harlow, I believe. At the beginning of the story, we find out that Harlow is married to a man, the coach of a really small university's baseball team. She's in a very unhappy marriage. They basically sleep in separate beds. He is emotionally and physically abusive towards her. She is trying to find a way to get out of this relationship. She finds solace and comfort in one of the players on the team. Scott comes from money. He is a trust fund baby. He is playing baseball at a high level and could go pro if he wants to, but he doesn't want to. He is a computer science major and he wants to be a software engineer after college. He's basically just vibing and living his life, but he has like always noticed his coach's wife from afar, and he like finds the perfect opportunity to get close to her when she is charged with running this like baseball clinic, I guess, for children. And so he like puts the moves on her kind of, and like sort of helps her get out of her abusive situation. I mean, she definitely has other people helping her out. Like, she meets this woman like offers to give her a job and like let her live in an apartment rent free, and then Scott is like helping her emotionally and also like making sure that the ex-husband stays away. It's such a weird book in a lot of ways. I am definitely endeared to the story. I like the hero and heroine enough, but it's also a little bit bizarre because there's not much there beyond the surface. Like, there's obviously hard-hitting issues in this book with the domestic violence and abuse. I don't really know what our heroine wants besides getting out of this relationship. Like, I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of her internal dialogue. I just don't feel like she's a full-fledged, like, full-fleshed out person, and I feel the same exact way about Scott. Like, sure, I understand he wants to be a software engineer, but I don't really know much about him and his life's desires. And even if I did, I don't know, I just feel like the way the story is told is very like tell and not show. I don't know, I don't feel like I'm getting a good feel for who the characters are. I'm still rooting for them to get together. I mean, the hero is charming in a sense, but like, there's something missing there. Also, something I was going to point out is that I feel like there's too many convenient things happening here. Like, the fact that our hero doesn't actually want to go pro works out well because then it doesn't matter if he pisses his coach off by stealing his woman. Just been like a couple of instances like that. There's also been a moment where the abusive ex-husband comes and tries to find the heroine, like where she's staying. He finds out where she's staying and he like brings a cop or something like that. But because the people that the heroine is staying with like are well known in town or something, they end up calling the mayor, and the mayor is like, tell that cop to get out of there, otherwise he's fired, or something like that. I don't know, there's just like too many convenient things happening. And don't get me wrong, I don't really want the heroine to have a hard time. I don't tend to like harder hitting romances. I say that, I mean, Kennedy Ryan, love you so much. Yeah, I don't know. This one's just like a hard one to really sum up. I think you have to like read it to understand. It's not super deep, but I like it. I liked the sex scene that I just read, and I am liking this one. I think I was just gonna say more than the other books that I've read for this, but it's kind of hard to say. Honestly, this video was like more of a bust than I thought it would be. I'm not mad at any of the books though, for the most part. I would say like the one I'm maddest at is The Way I Hate Him, because that was too fucking long. But I'm having a good time despite like not having a ton of bangers. Good news is I'm gonna finish this book tonight, and then I'm gonna read Birthday Girl tomorrow, so like I'm in for a treat, you know? Hello bestie friends, I finished Stealing Home last night and I'm 50% into Birthday Girl, so right on track, doing what I should be doing. Stealing Home was quite the book. Here's the thing, I feel like the main issue here was what I sort of expressed yesterday, which was that there was a lot going on here, but not a lot of character development. And that was like such a crucial missing component of this book. I think had the characterization been done better, had I given a fuck about the characters, this book probably would have been like a 4 or maybe even a 5-star read for me. Because there were no well-developed characters in this book, it honestly feels more like a 2-star read to me, and that is how fucking crucially important characters are in a romance. Like, the hero and the heroine get together at the 50% mark of this book, and since there's nothing really leading you to that point, like there's no, oh, these characters need to be together because X, Y, and Z, like I know the hero so well, I know the heroine so well, this is why they should be together, because that doesn't ever really happen. You get these two characters getting together, and like, yeah, you want the hero to save the heroine or whatever, like damsel in distress. From the 50% mark on, the remainder of the story is spent with our heroine trying to stay with the hero. Okay, like, the hero has some issues with the baseball team, obviously, because he's dating the coach's ex-wife. He also runs into trouble with his parents because his parents don't want him dating an older woman. Our heroine, the majority of the story, honestly, is the heroine trying to escape her shitty ex-husband. She does end up getting a divorce. There is obviously a showdown after the divorce. I don't know, it just felt a little exhausting to read, especially, again, because it wasn't this triumphant moment of like, oh my god, these characters, they deserve this, like, they deserve a happy ending. I was just kind of like, I don't know, I was just kind of like scratching my head, like, okay, this is like fine, which is so disappointing because I feel like otherwise this book could have been like a 4, maybe even a 5-star read had that character development been there. Because it's like, if you can convincingly show that these two should be together and they get together at 50% mark and then the rest of the story is them facing adversity, I'm honestly fine with that. Like, I don't think I need a third act breakup necessarily for it to like be a convincing, amazing romance with a lot of good conflict and stakes. I just need the character development to be there for that to happen. So sadly, overall, this book's a 2-star read for me. It's irritating in ways that The Way I Hate Him wasn't, and vice versa. The characters in this book weren't irritating, but they also had no personality, so like they couldn't have really irritated in that sense. So yeah, overall rating for this is going to be probably 2 stars, which, I mean, it could have gone either way, I feel like. Did I give the other book 3 stars? Fuck. Definitely wasn't worse than The Way I Hate Him. Okay, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it an overall 3 because it wasn't terrible. I think the sexiness factor of this book's probably a 3 as well. Like, it was fine, but I don't think that it was like the sexiest thing I've ever read. I don't know, some of the like dynamics there just felt unrealistic given our hero's history with sex, but I don't know, whatever. The age gapness of the story. I think this book is maybe one of the most compelling age gap stories. This one and The Pool Boy, I think because it's not because the heroine's older, but like the age gap was a crucial component of the story, and like, you know what, I say that. Was it really? Like, it was, but also like, okay, let's say that you aged up the hero and he was like a professional player, like in Long Shot, right? A professional baseball player, and she wasn't. She was still the coach's wife, and there wasn't an age gap, but the story had still worked. I think yes. So actually, I'm gonna give it a 2 for age gappiness. I'm all over the fucking place today, y'all. Overall, it's a 2.66, which I think is the same as The Way I Hate Him, which feels right, because I disliked these books for different reasons, and I liked them for different reasons as well. Like, there were definitely like winning characteristics of both books, but like overall, neither is gonna be like top of my list. All right, now let's move on to the final book, the book that I knew was going to be a banger because I've read it before. Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This one has been an interesting reread in that I'm listening to the audiobook rather than reading it physically. I believe that's the first time that I've ever done it. I mean, I can't recall listening to the audiobook before for this one. And I do think it's impacting my enjoyment a little bit. I think this is definitely a book that I would recommend reading physically because I think that reading at your own pace rather than having someone like read it to you. It just works better for the story. Not saying that, like, you know, you shouldn't listen to the audiobook, but I do think the physical book's better. So this book's about our two main characters, Pike and Jordan. Jordan is living with her boyfriend and her boyfriend's father in his house after they've kind of fallen on hard times. They've been living together for a while. She and her boyfriend, like, they need somewhere to live. So she's gonna move in with her boyfriend's dad, Pike. And her boyfriend is like kind of estranged from his father. Like, they haven't had like the best relationship ever. And also Jordan is feeling a little bit alone. I don't think she has very supportive parents, if she has parents at all. Her older sister works at a strip club and Jordan doesn't necessarily want that to be her own fate. And then you have Pike, who is, I don't know, just this like gruff middle-aged dude who's living his life. And really, like, the crux of the story, right? Like, the crux of the story is obviously that Jordan and Pike get together, and the boyfriend is a piece of shit, so we don't really care so much that he gets, like, cheated on, but he doesn't really get cheated on. Anyway, crux of the story is basically, like, a playing house kind of vibe. Like, you have Jordan and Pike kind of, like, working side by side. Part of the deal of her and Cole, I think is his name, living in the house, her boyfriend, is that they will cook a little bit, they will clean, they will just make sure that the house is maintained if they're gonna live there, right? Makes sense, like a fair exchange. And because of this, you know, Jordan is kind of playing house with Pike, and as the story develops, they like spend more and more time together, and they start to like appreciate each other's qualities, and they actually have sort of like a meet cute situation at the beginning of the book before they knew who the other person is, and it's just clear that they have this like undeniable chemistry. This book is just such a contrast with the first book, where I feel like you really understand the characters' desires, what they want from life, what they are maybe looking for in a partner, even if they're not necessarily looking for a partner. And I feel like that is what sets this book apart from so many other age gap romances, especially the ones I've been reading. I'm not saying everything has to be the deepest, and I think age gap definitely provides like a fun taboo element if you want to make a sexy story, but I think the thing about this book that's so great is the slow burn. The hero and the heroine have not gotten together at this 50% mark. You've got kind of this like drawn out will they won't they situation, and I think Penn does such a good job at like writing that line between sexual attraction and also compatibility, because I think, again, a lot of the time you have this like long drawn out slow burn situation, or not even slow burn, but you just have these two characters who you know want to get together, and the tension, the only real tension there is the like, oh, I just want to see what she looks like naked. That's definitely part of it here, but the majority of it is that like they get along so well and they seemingly want the same things out of life. So I don't know, it's just one of those romances that every time I read it, I am into it. I think this time around I may be like a touch more bored than I have been in the past reading it, just because again I'm listening to the audiobook, and I might end up switching to the physical book for the last half of the book. But I like this story a lot. I think this is one of the better examples of age gaps, and I know not everybody's going to be into this trope at all. Like, if you are adamantly not into age gaps, you're not going to like this story. If you like an age gap or you're curious about it, I think this is a great entry point, because it does again strike that balance between sexy, taboo, and also convincing romance. So I love this book. I think it's so fun, and I'm glad that I picked this for my reread. There were definitely a lot of options, and as I was reading, was it the last book? The characters were actually kind of reminding me of, I think it's Lessons in Corruption by, is it Lessons in Corruption? I don't know. The first book in that Gianna Darling series, the like motorcycle club romance series, the character dynamic between hero and heroine in Stealing Home reminded me a lot of that, and I was like, oh shit, I should have reread that one. And while I like that book, I think this is just like, this is primo. There's so many age gap romances out there, and maybe I just picked not great ones for this video. As with Cookie Crumble sometimes. I'm gonna finish this, I'll let you know how it is, and we can compare the results of this age gap romance vlog to the other tropes that we've done for the series so far. Alright y'all, I finished Birthday Girl, and I'm sorry, it's 5s across the board. This book just really does everything that an age gap romance should. It's sexy, it's sweet, it's charming, the relationship dynamic is incredible, the character development is really great. I just love seeing two people who are well suited for each other get together, and I feel like this is it's one of my favorite books of all time for a reason. I just feel like these two are so well suited for each other, and it takes a really masterfully skilled author to be able to pull off a story like this without making it gross, you know what I mean? Like, taboo romances have such an opportunity to be gross and like titillating for no reason, but this one is just, it's a banger for a reason. And I feel like I'm not doing a good job at describing this book or going into the details of it, because I've read it before, and because I feel like multiple vlogs on my channel reading this book, but I just think if you're looking for a good age gap romance, this is just one you need to read. The one that you really should check out, because it is again exemplary, I think, of this particular trope. So again, if it's 5s across the board, the average rating for this book's 5, which brings the total for this video, the total like overall rating for age gap romances to a 3.49, just tied with something else, and I can't remember what it is, but you can see it on the screen compared to other tropes. This one is definitely like middle of the pack, like higher than middle of the pack, but not like top. I think my top ones at this point are like second chance romance, and I can't remember what else. There's one that's like up there, but I had such a good time with this video. I just love making trope videos in general. And I need your help, obviously, for the next one in getting your YouTube comments and your recommendations for your favorite love triangle romances. The next trope I'm going to be doing is love triangles in November, so let me know in the comments down below your favorite love triangle romance, and let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my ratings for the age gap books that I read in this year video. But thanks so much for watching. I love you all so much, and until next time.